But Ron and Alden's been waiting on hold. I want to get him in before we kind of figure out like what's Elijah Moore's role in the offense and these other guys as well. Ron and Alden on the phone here. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, guys. I called the afternoon show the other day and posed a question, and I want to do it with you guys. Sean McDermott, he's been the one constant since, pretty much this whole run began the last 8-10 years, whatever it's been now. And if we have the same season this year, no injuries, no Allen plays, and, we win 13, 14 games, win the division by basically Thanksgiving, we're flowing the playoffs. We beat a team we're supposed to, but then we lose to Cincinnati or KC, and once again, no Super Bowl appearance. Where is McDermott on this? Is his seat even warm yet? And I know, Sal, you're a little bit closer to the team. That's why I really wanted to call in and get your perspective on this. Would he possibly? Is there a chance he could be fired? I'm saying if the same season's been, and just once again we can't get past like KC again. At some point, one constant besides Josh Allen has been McDermott. Something's got to give eventually. That's why your thoughts on it, and I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Whenever people ask me this question, I assume they're coming from a place where they say, hey, I think it's time to make a change if that happens, which I think is a fair argument for anybody to make. But my answer is always the same, which is, do you think the owner would do that? I just don't, right? That's what the answer to the question from the caller would be. If you want me to answer that question, it's not what would Sal Capaccio do? Yeah, I think that if Sean McDermott has the same season, there's always a discussion of, okay, just like there has been, do you have the guy that's going to get you over the hump? But at the same time, if you have the same season, that means they've now won 6 straight AFC East Division championships, and they've gone, deep in the playoffs again, maybe to the AFC Championship or whatever, which is really saying a lot. I think he's a really good coach. But the question really is, would the owner make that change in that scenario?
Right.
What would it take for him to make that change? I think it would have to be drastically short of what the caller just described, Joe. That's my opinion. I think it would have to take not the same season. It would be like, okay, you only won 9 games and went out in the first round. You made the wild card, something like that. That's where I think you have that discussion coming from that standpoint. I understand fans having it,
Sure.
There's a big difference between if a fan thinks that his seat should be warm or hot versus do you think the owner would actually do that? You have an owner that right now is, has a hockey team that has the longest playoff drought in professional sports right now, tied with the Jets, or actually, I guess the Jets are technically ahead of them.
They're a few months. They're a few months longer.
Yeah, by a few months. And he's gone through a lot of different changes on that side, and he has something in football that he probably would covet to have in hockey, which is continuity and stability. And that's what Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, the caller said the one constant. That's actually a good thing in a lot of ways, I'm guessing, to Terry Pegula. He's had a constant coach and GM and quarterback that have won 5 straight AFC divisional championships and been in playoffs in 6 of the last 7 years.
Right. Well, even on the Sabres end, the continuity
the last
point.
6 years, 7 of 8.
I mean, Kevin Adams is going into his 6th season as the general manager.
Yeah.
So you're even seeing it on that end. I understand why the question is asked. I do not believe his seat is warm in any way.
No.
I would understand anyone wondering, though, could his seat ever get warm without them having just a fall on your face type of season? Could it ever get warm just from playoff failure? Is there ever a point where you winning the division every year and losing in the second round in the divisional round or the conference championship could cause him to have his seat warm? And I don't know the answer to that question. Right now, I think the answer is a definite no. What about in 5 years? I don't know. It's so far out, it's tough to predict. I think there's a chance that they could go Josh Allen's entire career, and if they won the division every year and didn't make the Super Bowl, I'm not sure they would ever make a change. I don't know. I don't know how, but that's so far in the future. Again, that's so tough to predict. The way I feel about it is without a couple of seasons in a row even where they win, they have a year where they win 5 games for some reason. There's injuries or whatever, and I don't know. Josh at 33 isn't as athletic anymore, and they win 6. I don't know. The way I usually feel about it, Sal, is that it would take the quarterback doing it. It would take the quarterback having a problem with the coach and going to ownership about it. And I don't think, one, there is anything between Josh and McDermott that would spark that. And two, I don't even think Josh comes off as the type of guy that would even do it, even if there was a problem. Does that make sense?
Yes. I largely agree. At some point, right, like I always believed this same conversation. Like I remember living down in Florida and having this same discussion with Tony Dungy and the Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was crazy to think that the team would ever actually move off of him because of the success they were having, even though they never got to the Super Bowl. The same thing at the Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Those organizations did ultimately make changes. Right. And in the Bucs case, they won the Super Bowl the next year. In the Eagles case, they eventually did, but they weren't as good right away. Right? I mean, it took a couple changes to actually get there. Right? I think I have to go back and look at the Eagles, timeline there. The argument is always made, like, what are you going to get? Who's coming in? And I agree with that. Like, I saw somebody in the bullpen yesterday. I see this sometimes. By the way, shout out bullpen. How are you doing today? Haven't really been checking in on it too much today, but somebody in the bullpen today said, why does nobody ever bring up just moving McDermott to defensive coordinator? Like, that never happens. Have you ever heard of that ever happening in the NFL? Like a coach just goes to be a coordinator and they move somebody in their place? That doesn't happen. Either he's the head coach or he's not anymore. Period.
Yeah, you're not getting demoted. And then have a new head coach with the former head coach behind him. No one, that guy wouldn't want that. So yeah, that's not happening. That's the one argument, though, that sometimes I'll push back on. Like, I am not team fire McDermott right now. I actually have been very impressed with how McDermott has evolved over time in so many areas. Not even just like, he's a little more chill in the last 12 to 14 months, it appears. Like, I'm not even talking about that. His willingness to be a pass-heavy offense until really last season, when the league kind of dictated that. He has become one of the most progressive coaches on fourth down decision making. He obviously has been a very good defensive mind until some of these postseason games where they fall. And that's been even with seasons like last year where it's almost amazing they were able to keep the defense together at times when you've got like 4 or 5 backups playing in some games. Remember the Miami game earlier in the year where like Cam Lewis is playing and DeMar Hamlin is playing and, Balin Spector is on the field, and still, just Tua and the Dolphins can't do anything. So I'm prefacing this with I actually like where the Bills are right now with their head coach. I am impressed with what McDermott presently is.
I say this a lot too, and I get accused of just defending, too much, but man, I do think there are times where you also have to appreciate how those things you're saying. Like there are times where it could be worse, but man, because you have a guy that understands how to coach, you've had to plug guys in if they've still been able to win games, right? That part has gone underappreciated because the ultimate end result has not been where everybody wants to go, which is to a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl. But there have been times along the way over the last 6-7 years where you're like, wait a minute, look what he's actually done. Look what the team has done with some of the players they've had to put in and play in certain spots, and they deserve credit for that. Not criticism for the ultimate result.
That's right. So again, this is kind of preface it though with all of that being said, I will also say personally, I am not afraid of a Bills' future if McDermott is not the head coach. For 2 reasons.
Because they have Josh Allen.
The number one reason is definitely that they have Josh Allen. And I just don't believe that with Josh Allen playing at this level that you can be a bad team. Maybe you can't be as good as they've been, but I don't think the downside is that large. And on the other hand, and I guess this is there's overlap here, it's the same point. Because Josh Allen is your quarterback, this is not the drought Bills when they couldn't get Bill Cowher and they had to go hire a fired offensive coordinator, Chan Gailey. And I love Chan Gailey, but he wasn't a hot candidate to be your head coach. It was just a guy that would take the job. That's not the Bills anymore. Josh Allen is your quarterback. Qualified, good coaches would line up to be the Buffalo Bills head coach. Some guys might want to quit their jobs to be the Bills head coach to pair themselves with that quarterback. Jobs like that with a quarterback that good don't come available. Right?
Right.
Like when Peyton Manning was the Colts quarterback, that job never became available after he became a certain amount of good. Brady, that job never became available. Roethlisberger, that job only became available once, I guess. And then once Tomlin got it, he never let it up. You don't get a chance if you're a top-end coach to get a Josh Allen. So I think there would be a line down one Bills drive, down Abbott Road, from the best coaches in the world that would want to do it. Who would they hire, though? That's a different question.
There's also no guarantee that any of those coaches would actually have any more success. You could try it. You could do that.
Sure.
There's no guarantee that would happen.
No, that's right. It would not be a guarantee. So I guess that's kind of where I am on McDermott overall, though. I'm not afraid of a different coach, but I don't need to do it now. I don't need to rush him out the door. I mean, I don't want to say I would never get to that point. And there have even been times in the past, I'm sure the months after 13 seconds. Actually, I know the months after 13 seconds. I mean, there was anger. Like, I'm done. Like, that was fireable, what happened that day. But what's happened between then and now, there are a lot of areas that I've been impressed with. So
To go back to the original question from the caller, I just want to reiterate, my response is, because his question was, if they have the same season, is his seat warm? And my response is, I don't see the owner doing that. So, no, I don't think so.
Right. Same goes for the GM?
Same goes with the GM. I think it would take one of them saying, I'm done, or having internal strife or something like that. Like, those things could happen that we don't know about, right, behind the scenes. There's always things that could happen behind the scenes. I don't think through performance, if they have the same season, that Terry Pegula is like, I need to make a change. I could be wrong. I just don't see that happening. You have a new stadium opening. You could make both arguments here, which is, why would you do that when you're opening a new stadium? You had the success. You want to go in there with these guys that have had the success. Or you can make the other argument and say, well, just change everything because you're going into a new stadium. Like, it's part of the puzzle that you put together, just like I say him owning the Sabres and everything he's going through with them right now is part of the puzzle.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about this, by the way, I don't think McDermott is going anywhere for a long time. What was the best coach, well, what's the way I want to put this? The best job opening for a head coach with a superstar quarterback. When's like the last time that really has even happened?
Well, it depends what you think about Justin Herbert. But he's years ago.
No, he's not as good. A guy as good as Allen is, an MVP level quarterback. Where a job opening becomes available for that quarterback. When has it ever happened? Like there might not be a list. Who was, I said pretty quickly there that the Colts job never became available. Dungy gets there after Manning, so maybe that is the job.
And then it did with
like, who's Manning's coach at the beginning? It's not Dungy.
Oh no! And now I know this too. It's was it Ted Marchibroda?
That sounds right.
I thought it was Jim Mora.
There's Jim Mora too. Jim Mora might have been before Manning, though. I'm looking.
Manning comes in
98.
What year? 98. It is Jim Mora.
Jim Mora.
It's Jim Mora.
Good.
But wait a minute. I want to go to, you say Dungy. I want to go further than that. They went through other. Then it was Jim Caldwell.
Oh, right, because Dungy retired.
Right. So that was Jim. And then I would say even like Andrew Luck, you get him. He wasn't MVP level at the time.
Yeah.
But Frank Reich comes in with Andrew Luck as the quarterback still.
This isn't me making a point that McDermott should be fired. Just I want to point that out off the cuff here. But it is interesting that the couple of names we've mentioned, like, really look at Brady, Manning, and Roethlisberger. Didn't they all win Super Bowls with the next coach? Like Roethlisberger loses Cowher to retirement. Tomlin comes in. He wins the Super Bowl. Brady is with Belichick for 25 years. He leaves, goes to Tampa with Bruce Arians. He wins the Super Bowl. Actually, wait, did they not win it with Caldwell?
Wait a minute. Say that again about Brady. Brady won with. He didn't.
He won with Arians.
Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the coach going somewhere or the quarterback? You said
just the quarterbacks
won with a different coach.
Yeah, just that.
Because Brady didn't win with a different coach. He won with Belichick.
Yeah, but then
he won later again. But he already won.
No, right. That's why I'm not even making like an Allen comparison. I'm just saying these MVP quarterbacks that have gone to a different coach. I guess it is part of an Allen point. I'm not afraid of a future of Allen with a different coach. Look at these guys. They eventually had a different head coach and they all won. Although I don't know if Manning won with Caldwell. I don't think he did. But he won with John Fox. Eventually.
But some won already with their current coach, like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, right?
That's right. All of those guys did win with their original coach too. So it's kind of a tough comparison. 8030550. Good question. To get on to McDermott here and as a topic, it's not really one that comes up a lot, but as you kind of heard, like part of that is I just don't think, and Sal doesn't think either, his seat is warm at all, or even should be.